And today we are going to be talking, exploring volunteer software programs for those who have volunteers who engage directly with clients. And today with me, I'm lucky to have Darbi Glassburn over at Hospice of Wichita Falls, who's going to be sharing her software journey and like where she was before and what led her to utilizing our software. So Darbi, feel free to introduce yourself.
Thank you. I have been working with volunteers for about 9 years. I have been a volunteer since I was a teenager, and lots have changed since then as far as technology goes. But our organization has been around for almost 40 years, and we've just now gotten to where we're using some software, and it has made a world of difference. So I'm excited to kind of walk y'all through what I went through and hope that will help y'all make whatever decision you're going to make. So thanks for having me.
And yeah, we're lucky to have you, Darbi. And my name is Micah Roberts. I'm a software sales advisor at Better Impact. I've been with the company for a little over 3 years now. Work with a wide range of organizations. Some are like smaller nonprofits, and then there are others that are more highly scaled at an enterprise level. I cover the western half of the United States. So those are states all west of the Mississippi River. I'm in the Pacific Northwest, Seattle, Tacoma area, but I grew up in the Midwest. Got my degree at the University of Missouri in Columbia, and although I was born on the Kansas side. In terms of fun things I like to do, I like to go out and hike with my fiance, and I'm big into fitness and nutrition. So with that, some of the takeaways for today. So we're going to first be discussing some common problems that many of you probably face, particularly when it comes to working with volunteers who work with other types of people in different services. And then we'll also follow up with just a quick assessment just to see where everyone's at with a short survey that we'll use through Zoom. And before going into Darbi's journey, I'll just have a short discussion on why the right tools for the job matter. And we'll get a lot of detail from Darbi's journey and what some of her tips were to finding the right software for your program. If we have some time, we can do a quick of an overview of volunteer and client impact. And then at the end is where you'll definitely want to stick around if you can, because there'll be some helpful resources that I'll share. And then afterwards, as I mentioned earlier, if no one caught it, I'll be able to email a recording of this, and there'll be some other helpful resources, like there'll be a link to a more comprehensive demonstration of volunteer and client impact, so that you can really get into the specific features to learn more if it's something that's going to be right for your program. So there are a lot of different kinds of programs out there where volunteers engage with directly with other people, clients, to deliver a service. And many of you in here probably land on one of these hospices, like pet therapy, any tutoring programs, therapeutic riding centers, refugee services. These are just some of the more common ones mentioned on here. So common problem that we all probably have is that, so when you're managing volunteers who work with other types of people, a big challenge is that you're managing two different types of people. And a lot of the times, each type of person may be on a spreadsheet. 40% or so of the people who meet with me are initially using some kind of spreadsheet. So just imagine having a spreadsheet for like volunteer profiles, and then clients, and many of you are probably already experiencing that. Right? It just creates a lot of disconnected like reporting and different things like that. It just makes it so confusing because there's so much data entry going on, and it really prevents you from just having enough time to lead and engage your volunteers, who your volunteers work with, your clients. And then of course, security is definitely a big issue in today's times. It's making sure that the information is being stored properly and safe, as you might be storing some sensitive information, just depending on the kind of organization you are. Then on top of all that, money's limited. So we're going to be on a tight budget as well. So just creates a lot of issues there, which we hope that volunteer and client impact can potentially be a solution for you for managing not only your volunteers, but also tracking who your volunteers are working with, since volunteer impact is a top-rated solution. And client impact is just an optional add-on where you can use it to work together in one database to see who your volunteers are working with, which individuals, track and match them. So that way they're just all in one platform there. And now that leads us to our quick assessment. So I'm going to share a poll on here through Zoom. And there will be 4 questions on here. I'm going to go ahead and launch it now for people to take. The first question is on the slide here. It's which problem resonated with you most on the last slide? So there's options 1 through 5 on here. So there's disconnected tools, which are related to security, data entry. You have those on there. So everyone go ahead and feel free to participate in the poll.
What do you think? Too much data entry? And a tight budget. Can I check more than one? Here we go.
And these are all multiple choice on if it says so. A lot of the times there could be like multiple ones. Feel free to select multiple. All right, and it looks like people are finding the other questions as well on that poll. Good job, everyone. So I'm just going to go ahead and just move to the next slide and then just give it a few minutes for people to submit their answers. So question 2, as many of you saw, like what are you currently utilizing for managing volunteers? Spreadsheets, another volunteer management system, or something else like a CRM or Access or something else that I'm not aware of. And then question 3, it's the same question, except it's regarding who your volunteers are working with, your clients. So spreadsheets, CRM, other. All right. And the last one, in your opinion, what's most at risk if a change doesn't occur sooner rather than later? So turnover, disengagement on all sides, affecting volunteers, affecting staff, affecting clients, and then the others wasted money, maybe damage, program reputation. Let me see how everyone's answering so far. I'm getting a lot on the first question, managing disconnected systems. So that's something a lot of people have in common there. Many of you are actually using a VMS already. That's pretty interesting. Most of the time when I run these, people are on spreadsheets. I'll share these results here soon. I'm just waiting for a few more results to come in, so then that way everybody can see these numbers.
Staff turnover, client turnover, volunteer turnover, disengagement. I don't feel any of those really. Okay. No, I'm looking at a different screen here. It's weird.
Okay. And now I'm gonna go ahead and end the poll in about 15 seconds here, just to see if there's any last second responses. It looks like we're pretty much okay. So there we go. I got another one. So so far we have 10 people. I'm just gonna have to go ahead and end the poll though, just so we can move on. And now let's find the results that we have here. 10 is a good number to end at since it's a pretty clean number. So the first question, so yes, 70% of those on here. So using multiple types of systems. And interestingly, that's really interesting. So multiple systems are being used, but 7 out of 10 are using a VMS. So it sounds like what a lot of people are currently utilizing is not using as much as they would like it to. It's not as much of an all-in-one platform. So that's a really interesting statistic we're getting pulled on here. And we have like an even mix for clients, spreadsheets, CRM, other. And that makes sense for the last question, number 4, for volunteer turnover, disengagement being a top issue on there, because a lot of the times in mind when using a system, we're really thinking like in terms of the volunteer, keeping them engaged and making sure on my slide, I have a quick survey from G2 where they surveyed thousands of people on asking them different kinds of questions about software and job satisfaction. They found that more than half of employees are unhappy at work because of the software tools that they're using. There's some other interesting facts that came out here, like about 1 in every 8 people, like they quit a job because the software was just not the right tool for the job. So it just emphasizes the importance of having the right tool, since it can affect turnover. And what we hope for with our software is to have less of what's on the left side over there and more happy on the right side. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and pass it on to Darbi. So feel free to start with your background. Oh no, Darbi, you're muted. We all do.
All right,
that.
we talked about this. You're supposed to be able to read my lips. I'm sorry. So like I said, I have been with my organization for 9 years. And in that time, I've held some other positions, but always with the volunteer department. And now I'm also I'm over the palliative care department as well. So the timing of when we switched over to using this volunteer management system was really good, because I don't think I'd be able to do it all without the help of that. We've been using volunteer impact, better impact, my impact, depending on which part you're using. It has a little bit different name, but we've been on that for about 2 years. And before that, I am impressed that there are so many people that have other volunteer management systems. We did not. We were on paper and Excel spreadsheets, and it was not fun. But we have been really excited about this, and I'm excited to share kind of how we utilize it. Can we do a little, is it against the rules to ask what type of volunteering people are using? Okay.
It is not against the rules. You can have people answer, have it in chat, might be easier, so we can.
Okay, yeah, if you want to put in your chat what type of organization you work with, that I think that'll be interesting and maybe help me kind of lean towards some of my explanations. Let's see. I'll give you all a second. Oh, good. Social, okay, two hospice. Oh, and you use NetSmart, whoever LR is. Okay, good, we do too. Hospice care, social services, land trust, okay, education, NetSmart, yeah. Hospice, okay, good. I think there'll be some stuff, obviously, that won't be quite the same if you're in the Humane Society or education, but there are several hospices too, so hopefully you can relate to this, and especially the ones that use NetSmart. Maybe if we need to do outside of this, I can tell you how we utilize both of those too.
Okay. We can coordinate the two. That would be great.
Yes, it's tricky, but it can be done.
Oh, I'm muted, I hope. Yes.
Nope, you're not. I can hear you.
Oh, sorry. Thank you.
That's okay. Okay. Next slide, please. Okay, so like I mentioned with our process that we were doing, it was all in paper spreadsheets for, I guess, we've had volunteers since the inception of our organization. So for almost, I guess, 35 years, if you take out the 2 years we've been using Better Impact. We were using paper and spreadsheets. Before they used Excel, I don't know what they used. I guess it was all just on paper. But for those of you that are not familiar with hospice care, we're actually required through Medicare to have at least a 5% volunteer match with our direct patient care. So the easiest way to explain that, we'll just use 100. So if we had staff members that were seeing patients for 100 hours a month, we would have to match that with 5 hours of volunteer. So it's very crucial that we keep track of all of this stuff, because if we don't, then Medicare is going to say, here, give me money back. But in saying that, we were going through all of our handwritten paper. We had our volunteers coming in and they were signing in if they remembered. When they would go and see patients, they would maybe remember to bring us their paper note. Sometimes they would email us. We would also sometimes have volunteers that were mailing in their information. And a lot of times it was just a guesstimation, because they would leave the visit or leave what they were doing and, oh yeah, I forgot, I need to tell you. So I really will say, I think we had talked about moving into some sort of management system before COVID. And there was always like that, would our volunteers be willing to do it? Would they get on board? Well, our local hospital, we have several volunteers that volunteer for us and also for our hospital. And they said, yeah, our hospital's been doing electronic volunteer management for years. So, you know, you don't want anyone to be ahead of the game from you. So we started looking into this, especially when people were out of the office so much, because we were doing a lot more where we weren't seeing them face to face. We needed something. So next slide.
I can help explain.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'll let you explain that one.
So there's something called on our website called a ROI, return on investment calculator. And this is something that Darbi filled out before meeting with me. And it's just highlighting just how like what she was experiencing before, how much more time she was spending before software. So spending an extra 978 hours per year in the calculator that she filled out before switching over, and just the amount of money saved as well with the time, and then what that return of investment was using the software now. So, and then this breaks down just the amount where those additional hours were being spent. So as we can see, like almost 3/4 of the chart, she was handling a lot of scheduling with the volunteers, and there was a lot of additional communications. Is this all sounding right, Darbi?
Yes, and I'll explain some of the scheduling volunteers. I'll kind of tell you what we do in our hospice. We have an inpatient center, and so we have duties that are visiting with patients in the inpatient center, doing laundry, running what we call our hospitality or snack cart. We're actually in the process of opening a new inpatient care center, which will be double the size. So again, this is like right when we need it, because it would be almost impossible to try and have all of those schedules when you have volunteers from 8 to 8, 7 days a week in different shifts. So that was a lot of our scheduling. Also, we have reception volunteers. We have admin volunteers that help in several different departments, fundraising, development, outreach, our palliative care program, our billing program. And then we have a bereavement program that is community-based, so you don't have to have been on hospice care. So it's open to all of our community. And we have several camps during the summer. We have fall and spring, we call it building bridges. And then we have memorial services and support groups and all of that. And all of those things are helped run by volunteers. So we were using spreadsheets and trying to coordinate with the department heads. So they were sort of communicating with them, but then we were like, is so-and-so going to be here? I'm not sure who talked to who. I don't know who did that. So scheduling was a huge chunk. I mean, it still is, but this has made a tremendous difference in what we've been able to do. And then going to where our other biggest spot is the internal communication. We are a department of 3 in our volunteer department. We have about 150 volunteers that we're building back up from COVID. We lost quite a few. But the way we have our department is 2 of the coordinators are over certain parts of the organization as far as volunteers. And then I oversee the HR piece of it and also oversee them. But we still all have to know what we're doing, because you never get the volunteer that calls and talks to the person that they're supposed to be talking to. So we need to know what's going on within our own department. And so that's where the internal communication helps a lot, because you have a one-stop shop that you can pull up and be like, oh, I know what I'm supposed to be helping you with, instead of, oh, I need to call so-and-so, let me find out what they were talking about. Exporting addresses and to email volunteers, this has been amazing, because we were using Outlook and trying to make groups. And I don't know about your organization, but there's a lot of security stuff, and being able to group outside emails, that was getting tricky and that sort of thing. So sometimes we were using MailChimp, but that was harder to keep up with whose address is working and that sort of thing. So being able to just run a report with the mailing labels in there has been really helpful. We've actually turned a lot of our mailings into electronic during this time too, and so that's made a huge difference. Let me read this chat just to make sure. So we utilize Better Impact and Client Impact together because we have our Better Impact that helps with our volunteer HR information. And then we put them together with Client Impact when we're utilize. So we use the word client, we interchange with patients because that's who our clients are. So we're using both of them. And I'll tell you a little bit how we do that with our patient volunteers in just a minute. Updating profile information. Again, it's a one-stop shop. We're trying to transition all of it out over from our paper files. You know, you want to get rid of paper, but there's still always that little bit of paper there, but we're getting all of the stuff scanned in there. So again, it's all a one-stop shop that we're able to do that. Creating reports has been great because I have to work a lot with our finance department to pull all those cost savings and the percentages that we need. And before, you'd have to try and figure out which spreadsheet we're supposed to be in. And, oh, I need to share this one with you, but you don't need to see that one. And we would have a volunteer come in, and all of those sign-in sheets, you'd have to try and read whose name was what and how, oh, I think that's a 4, maybe that's a 3. So this has just been a tremendous amount to be able to read it, obviously, because it's a computer instead of trying to read someone's handwriting. And we can run reports on hours for schedules. I could go on and on about all of the reports. So that actually may be more, maybe that should have been more than 4, but we really enjoy that as well too. Okay, next slide. We started our software journey in about 2021, which, like I said, was right in the middle of COVID, trying to figure out what we were going to do to stay, number one, to stay in touch with our volunteers as they weren't in the offices often. And then also we are CHAP accredited, which is the accrediting body for our Hospice of Wichita Falls. And we had just gotten audited. And one of the things that they look at is personnel files as far as volunteers too. And we wanted to find a better way to be able to keep that all in one place, because I don't know about y'all, but I hate getting audited. I know we need it, but it can be very scary. So we will be getting audited again in January, and I'm much more comfortable because I know when they come in and they say, here, I need a list of all your active volunteers. Okay, 2 or 3 punches, here's your list. And then, okay, I need this person and this person and this person's personnel file. All I have to do is go into the system and print exactly what they need instead of opening a manila folder that, oh, I hope that's in there, that sort of thing. We used Access. We did use a little bit of Access, and we used Excel spreadsheets to do that. So this has been a whole lot helpful. Now, talking about using volunteer and client impact. The reason that we went with volunteer impact is we looked at several others. It's super simple from the volunteer side. We wanted something that was going to be easy to roll out to our volunteers, knowing that they weren't really going to like change anyway, and that we would also be able to use that was easy for us on our end. There were some that might have been, we felt were a little more overcomplicated than what we needed. So we knew what we needed, and we wanted to find something that met all of those needs. And for us, that was Better Impact. And then the client impact, we needed to find something that was HIPAA compliant, because you were talking about confidentiality and security. For us, it's all about HIPAA. And so I worked with our IT department to make sure that this was going to be what we could utilize that at. The app for the phone, we love that because the volunteers, again, don't have to come into the office. You can talk to them on the phone and say, hey, go to your client, check your information, and there's where you need to know. That way they're not carrying around papers and sticky notes that have the information on it that could get lost. As long as they have a password secure phone, then we can share that with them on their app. And they can, if they go and see their patient in a facility and the room has changed, we can change that in there. If the time changed, we can change that in there from our end. Or if they get there and they forgot what their patient's name is, it's right in front of them. They're not having to call and be like, I forgot who I'm going to see. So that has been where we've utilized the volunteer and client impact together. And then also within that we add, and this is probably preference, we add information of like patient likes the Dallas Cowboys sometimes when they're doing good, not usually any season, but the patient likes country music. They like to read the Bible, or also they don't like to talk about religion. Anything that would be good for the volunteer to put in there, there's a section that when you assign a client to a volunteer, that's a set of notes that they can see, the volunteer can see. That's been really helpful for them as well. Some of the other things that we do utilize, I've mentioned the volunteer portal and app. That's been really easy in transitioning for them to pick up scheduled shifts. The way we have ours set up, there's qualifications, and this will be easier for you to see. If you don't already use Volunteer Impact, you won't know exactly, but you can set up your qualifications so only certain volunteers can sign up for certain things. So what we do is we have them in there, and there's certain jobs that they have to be trained a little bit extra. And so we put in their qualifications that they're able to sign up for those jobs. They can get in there and sign up for anything that they want to that's available. What that used to look like was, oh no, we have 3 shifts open tomorrow. Let's call down this list of 50 people until we find someone. Well, this way, that schedule is where they can all see it. They can sign up for a month in advance if they want to. So that's been really helpful. I feel like you're always, and we still do, we always get those last minute, oh, somebody's sick or I've got to go out of town. So we're still keeping in contact with our volunteers if we need to make a phone call. Be like, hey, can you pick this shift up for us, that sort of thing. So it hasn't fixed everything, but I don't think, unless you just have people that are never sick and never go out of town, which is not volunteers. So that's been really helpful. The customizable application forms were really neat because we have a teen program and an adult program. So we were able to separate those type of applications, because for an adult volunteer, we don't need to know what grade they're going into or what activities they do at school. But for a teen, we obviously want to know that. And we were able to put in some fields that we would put in there so that they know that they have to pass a background and drug screen. So in case they may not even finish, if they know that's not going to happen. So it saves time because we can put in questions that help them know what we're needing from them. The feedback fields that help the visit notes. So this is for those of you that use NetSmart, or any kind of EMR. What we have our volunteers do is they put in the feedback fields. This is where they put their patient note. So when they go and visit a patient, they put in the time they were there and the time they were left, which is what we need for the length of time they were there. But for us, we need a little bit more of an explanation. So that works great in the feedback fields. And then one of our volunteer coordinators can then just cut and paste that into the patient's EMR. So we used to have to just double type that. We would just have to take their note and type it into one place, and then we'd have to type it into another. So although there are 2 places, the volunteer does not have to have access to the EMR. As long as they put that note in there like they need to, it's just a cut and paste. And so it doesn't take near as much time as it used to. Then matching volunteers with patient profiles. There's an option for you to put preferences in there. So you can, if you have volunteers that only want to help with reception or only want to help with the finance department, only office stuff, then you can put that in their preferences and set up your profiles is not the right word. You can set up your system where it won't even show you that volunteer if you need somebody to work in the pharmacy. So it helps you narrow down who would even be interested in helping. Next slide, please. I mentioned also earlier about the certain amount of hours that we have to have, and I sort of went over this already, but working with our finance department has been a lot easier because we have what we call QAPI. It's our quality assurance. Should know what it actually stands for, but it pretty much makes sure that you're doing what you're supposed to and that you're going to stay in compliance. And every year or every quarter, we match that 5% and make sure we're staying where we're supposed to. So it's much easier to run reports for our finance department, who puts those together for the whole organization. Again, we did get audited by Medicare, and it just was, we used to have, I started working here and my boss left, and 2 months later we got audited. And I literally sat on the floor and was looking through little pieces of paper that were like this big that had people's notes on them, and some were handwritten by them, some were handwritten by, it was just a mess. So this has come a ton farther, and we're able to show what we need to show without a whole lot of stress, and to hopefully pass without deficiencies. Next.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your whole journey, Darbi, and going into every little detail, like what some of the challenges that you have, like particularly with hospices. I saw there's a few other hospices here on the call as well, but of course, a lot of it's going to translate to anyone else working in a volunteer program, and they're taking extra steps for like finding the information. Particularly, I remember when you mentioned like in the scheduling and things like that. So before opening it up to Q&A for any questions anybody has for Darbi or Better Impact, I first just want to briefly share just kind of like our story and how we started. So our company actually started by a fluke, and it has hospice findings. Our founder and CEO, Tony, had a passion project of building a web-based volunteer management software solution for a residential hospice where his mother resided over 20 years ago. So we've been HIPAA compliant since the very beginning, and we're a small company with global impact. So we've grown to now we have offices not only in North America and in the United States and in Canada, but also on the other sides of the globe. So United Kingdom and Australia. So we work with customers all around the world, and it's very beneficial in terms of support, which I Darbi will be able to speak highly of, since there's a way you can reach out to anybody for help, like through our chat, and you'll get a response rate typically within 5 minutes because somebody's always awake, just conveniently where we're located. And yeah, so with that, I'll go ahead and open everything up for a Q&A. I'm so happy everyone was here to join, and we'll give a big thanks for Darbi for sharing her story. And I'm going to go in the chat. I'm going to drop while we have this open, because there's a PDU link I'm going to share in the chat where you can obtain credits for attending this webinar, and it only works when you open this link during the webinar. So I'm just going to have it here now, so then that way we have plenty of time to use that should people want that. But for now, yeah, feel free to speak up or use the chat. And it looks like we have some questions on client impact with Leah. So do you want to answer that, Darbi?
Yes, I can answer that. So there is a way. We choose to only put the patient information once we've made them with a volunteer match. But the way that you can do it, if you are more comfortable listing all of your patients and putting them in the program, you can very much do that. And then when they're ready to be attached to a volunteer, you can just associate them with that client. So that's really a preference thing. It's easy to do. So you can do that however your department decides to do. We just choose to only add them as a client/patient when we are matching them with a volunteer. Is it great email?
And I can answer Marty's question. So the email responses, so the software, it's sent, so you can send out an email through the software, but the responses will go in your natural email inbox. So like if you send an email to volunteers in the system, it'll go to those volunteers' respective email inboxes where they can reply from there. There's not a way to see like threads and responses within the software. That goes in the natural the email inboxes that are being used for the profiles. And then Jody has a question for you, Darbi.
So I believe that it's still considered HIPAA compliant as far as without the Better Impact, because it's the same.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, for Leah's,
no, that's okay.
Question there, it's HIPAA.
No,
our whole company is HIPAA compliant. So
right.
Without client impact, volunteer impact, it's still HIPAA compliant.
Right.
Jody had a question on volunteer files for surveyors. Does Better Impact store? Oh, she's asking me. I'm sorry. So does Better Impact store scanned documents? So like, are we tracked? Asked me for a ton of, so she could. The last surveyor asked me for a stack of 10 physical files so she could look. Okay, so just looking at like documents associated with volunteer records, is that what we're looking at? Because you can add custom fields to a volunteer, a patient, a client's record on there. So once you find their profile, you'll be able to find the respective volunteers a document.
Right.
Ooh,
Go ahead.
Sorry, I have an echo. Sorry. It's more so that I can scan documents that the volunteers have given us to prove their immunizations, etc. So can I scan into Better Impact, save those things?
So we do that. I will tell you, we still keep our health files separate, but as far as everything else personnel wise, like confidentiality or HIPAA,
Right.
any of our policy stuff, yes, we have a scanner that we scan that into and then save that into their profile. So what we are going to do, this will be different because this will be the first time we've been surveyed. And it's kind of what our HR department has transitioned into in a different program. But when they ask for 10 physical files, it's all right in front of you. And so then all you have to do is click print, and then everything looks uniform and you hand that to them, as opposed for us, because we have 25 years worth of volunteers. Sometimes the forms look different, sometimes that. So we've gotten everything where it looks very uniform. And then when we print it out, we can just hand it to them and it looks nice. Now, if they ask for anything else, like if they ask specifically for the immunizations, we have a health file on them, but that's taken care of through our education compliance nurse. So that's a little bit different. Same thing with our background checks. We keep those two things separate, but everything else that's in their personnel file, yes, you can scan that in and you build it. The nice thing is you can build it to whatever you want. So it's not like you have to use the same template that they've built for you. You put in whatever you like.
And then to clarify on this, just to scan in, just to make sure everyone's on the same page. So the you'll have to use since the software itself doesn't like have the scan, you'll have to use the scanner to like save that document on the computer. Because then once the document's saved on the computer, then you can upload the document that you've scanned it onto your computer.
Right. Yes. So our background check is also also paper in our company. We do not scan that into it. Again, we keep that in a totally separate area. As far as we were taught, and this may be different in different states, but that the background and health information is supposed to be kept separate from the personnel file. So that's why we keep those separate.
Yeah.
But if you were allowed to, you could scan it in there.
Yeah. And then I will mention, Leah, there is one company that we integrate with as a background check service provider called Sterling Volunteers, and that will allow you to initiate like the background check process within our software with our integration with Sterling, and then it'll let you like review the results of the background check. So if you wanted to, there is a way to like run that background check process all within the volunteer software if you use Sterling.
Yeah, and we looked at that one, but we chose not to use it just because our HR department helps take care of that.
Yeah.
The next question, it looks like it talks about the app. I love the app. We have volunteers from every age that have been able to use it. And I'll be honest, I was a little concerned because we have volunteers from age 16 to in their 90s. And we've had very few that have not been able to use it, and they love it. Especially, I don't know about what volunteer clientele y'all have, but ours like to travel a lot, go see grandkids or watch grandkids. So it's great for them because they don't have to feel like they have to call and pick up the phone every time they need to change something. They just pull up their schedule and remove anything they need to, or they can add. So we've been very happy with the app, and so have our volunteers. And then Micah just talked about the background check companies, visitor manager system. We do not use anything like that for visitor management. I don't know if that's something that's available.
So Joanna, yeah, that would be something I would highly suggest meeting with me so I can understand what more is being involved with the visitor management. So on our website, and I believe in the email going to be sent, there's going to be a link where you can book a meeting with me to see if there's a way one of our modules can help with that. And then for the language options, so there's a way where you can translate the language within the software to English, Spanish, French, and I believe Portuguese might be another one. What it translates is the interface of the software. So like on the hours tab all the built-in items would translate into auras for Spanish on there. Like the actual custom, like the custom fields, like if you have a separate application form, you'll just have to make sure to translate those into the other language, since and this offers multiple language options. It will translate all the built-in items.
I think as far as the client impact only being used for healthcare industry, I don't think that's the case at all. The first one that comes to mind is like the refugee, when you're matched a volunteer with a refugee, that information. So, I mean, you can explain better than me because I am in the health field, but it definitely can be utilized for any type of industry that has volunteers that work with people, other people.
Yeah. And then, and then to address Jody's question on the training video for helping volunteers learn it. So inside the volunteers portal, there's a help there's a help section where they can have and watch, like there's like written articles for step-by-steps on how to like use each section, each section of the volunteers portal. I don't recall if there's any like specific videos. I know there's videos on the betterimpact.tv. There's like a demonstration where it walks through like a portal of the volunteers experience in one video, but within their portal, they have simple like help articles on there that show step-by-step on how to do that. Was there an approach that you took, Darby, for like
training? That's what I was going to say. When we rolled it out to all of our volunteers, we fed them food and had it in service. And one of the things that we did was have a video from Better Impact, and we walked them through with that video. We also chose to make a PowerPoint using screenshots of some of the stuff that were on the app so that they could have a paper in front of them. But I will also say this, that I find that Better Impact has one of the best help. Besides the chat, there's a little box that you can literally type a word about anything if you forgot how to do it, and it will pull up a list of things that you might need, whether it's a video or instructions. So I've been very happy with the way that has helped too. So yeah, it just depends on how you'll learn how your volunteers work best. We had a lot of volunteers that needed to come in and one-on-one so that we could walk them through that. But the video trainings are very informative and very useful, I think.
Yeah. And to address, Marty. So the admin login and the volunteer login, they're actually they're separate websites. So to find the Better Impact like admin side, you would just Google Better Impact admin login. I think it's like admin.betterimpact.com, and then you'll use your login design to see it from the administrator view. And there's a way to you can toggle views between an administrator and a volunteer as well.
Mm-hmm.
Were there any other questions from anyone? And yeah, feel free to use the chat or speak up however you feel comfortable, and we can help answer any more questions. You're welcome. Well, if that's right, yep, you'll get the link to the recording so you can go back and rewatch this. Everybody here who attended, whether you came in part of the way, that you'll still be able to see the whole recording, so you'll be able to catch what you missed.
You're very welcome. Thank you. Thanks for listening.
Yeah. All right. Thank you for joining, everyone. You'll get that recording within the next day, and then there'll just be some other helpful resources as well. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out, and we'll be here to help. All right. Thanks again, everyone.
Thank you.
Cheers.